Harris. I'm a PhD student at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York, and I just began working in the laboratory of Dr. Charles Michael Drain at Hunter College. I actually did my undergraduate degree in physics, but I decided to switch to chemistry because I saw more of an opportunity to do research with important everyday applications. I just began research this summer, and we're beginning to look into some nanomaterials for different applications, but what I'm particularly interested in is their functioning in solar cells. The first question you might ask is, why should anyone be interested in solar energy? To me, it's obvious that there are several problems with our current oil-based economy. It's hard to pick up a newspaper these days without reading about some of the problems. There's also a global trend towards increasing power consumption that's expected to continue for some time into the future. Currently, renewable resources only account for about 10% of that demand, and only part of that is from solar energy, so we're hoping to increase that percentage. On the other hand, the sun is a very abundant source of energy. The sun provides more energy in an hour than the entire world uses in about a year. The amount of energy, or the rate of energy falling on 1 square meter from the sun, is about equal to the average energy consumption of an American home. Now obviously we can't capture all of that energy, but even if you have a solar cell that's only 5% efficient and can only operate 12 hours a day, obviously on average, you would only need a solar cell less than 500 square feet in area to indefinitely power an average home. That would be no additional cost other than maintenance on it. That's about the size of a small apartment in Manhattan, so it's very feasible. Right now our group is working on an alternative to silicon solar cells, which are something called dye-sensitized solar cells. They use safer organic materials. Unfortunately, right now they have a lower efficiency than traditional inorganic solar cells, but we're hoping to improve that, and that's part of what the research I'm working on is. In a conventional solar cell, the semiconductor material, as I said, usually silicon, is actually responsible for several different jobs. It absorbs the light. It uses the energy from the light to separate the positive and negative charges, and then it transports those charges to the other parts of the solar cell where it can actually do something useful and complete the electrical circuit. In plants, what we found, what's been known for a long time, is that they use specialized molecules called pigments to absorb light. Most famous of these pigments, obviously, is chlorophyll, which everyone knows about. But the way that chlorophyll and the other pigments in plants work and absorb light can actually teach us a lot about how to use solar energy. So in a dye-sensitized solar cell, which is part of what our lab is working on, the dye that we're talking about is actually analogous to those chlorophylls. They're specially designed molecules that absorb light and then transmit it to the rest of the cell where they can be used to do useful work. All of the different kinds of chlorophyll molecules absorb in the blue and red regions of the visible spectrum. The green light that is left over is either transmitted through or reflected back, and that's responsible for most of the color that we associate with plant light. Another class of pigments that are found in plants are carotenoids. They absorb slightly further into the green part of the spectrum, leaving mainly yellow and red light unabsorbed. And so these are responsible for the orange color in plants like sweet potatoes, apricots, cantaloupe, and carrots, which is where they get their name, carotenoids. All right, plants actually contain a combination of many different kinds of pigments so that they can absorb across the widest possible range of visible light. You can see the various colored pigments found in plants by performing a paper chromatography procedure. In a chromatography, some plant matter, or other matter, in this case spinach, is placed at the bottom of a piece of paper, and then the paper is placed into a small pool of solvent. As the solvent soaks up the paper, it dissolves the pigments out of the leaves and carries them with it. However, since the pigments have different structures, they interact differently with the solvent in the paper, so they all travel at different speeds and end up separating into different colored bands. The green bands that you see are the different chlorophyll molecules, and the yellow bands are the carotenoids. So just from this very general description of photosynthesis, we've already learned three important things that can help us in designing solar cells. We've learned that it's important to absorb light in the visible part of the spectrum because that's where the most energy content is. We've learned that we can use specially designed molecules to absorb the light. And we've learned that we can combine different kinds of these molecules together to cover a broader range of the solar spectrum to absorb. All right? And in fact, all three of these lessons have been successfully applied in dye-sensitized solar cells. So part of what our research project is working on is developing new derivatives of porphyrin other than chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a kind of porphyrin, which is a molecule our lab works on extensively. We're looking to develop new kinds of these that have different light absorption properties. They can either absorb more light or transmit it more efficiently to the rest of the cell. And hopefully some of the results that we get will help us to design new, improved, more efficient, or cheaper solar cells.